Hello everyone. With this lesson we will start to talk about rook endgames. If you missed to see some of my previous chess lessons, take a look, information about that in right upper corner. The basic rook endgames are rook and the pawn versus rook endgames. And this position, which you can see on the board, is one of the most basic positions. This position is called Lucena position. In this position, white pawn has reached 7th rank and it is blocked by its own king. His king cannot move to h-file because black rook will just shuttle between h2 and h3 square. And also white king cannot move to f-file because black king guards f7 and f8 squares. So the only way to make progress is to use white rook to force black king off e-file. So we start with rook e1. Black will of course play king d7, and now we have free square f7 to put our king out of this cage on g8 square. But what do you think? Will it be good to do this immediately? Of course not. If king goes to f7, it is not possible to win the game, because black rook will start to harass white's king from the 2nd rank, and after king g6, rook g2, king f6, rook f2. Now the maximum what white king can do is to go to g5 square, but then rook g2 check. And now in order to keep this pawn alive, white king needs to return back to the 6th rank, and there is no progress for white like this. Then the question is what to do after king d7, how to win the game. Well, the winning move is rook e4. Rook goes to the 4th rank, and now the question is why exactly to the 4th rank? Well, we have seen in the previous position that white king was maximum able to reach g5 square and 5th rank. At that moment black rook checked on g2. But if white's rook is on the 4th rank, when that happens, white will simply cover the check, playing rook g4, and white is going to win the game. So now there are two options, let's say, for black to just keep his rook on h-file or to play king d6. If he plays king d6, we are anyway able to go out playing king f7, and after rook f2 check, king g6. If king d5, then we simply play immediately rook g4, and now it's not possible for black to stop promotion anymore. And if rook g2 check, king f6, rook g1, and then look what a nice maneuver white has. Rook e6 check, rook e5 check, and now rook will cover the g-file from g5 square, and easy win and promotion cannot be stopped. If after rook e4 white plays rook h1, black plays rook h1 and keeps the rook on h-file, then we simply go out. King f7, rook f1 check, king g6, rook g1 check, king f6. And again, if king d6, now it would be very wrong actually to play rook e5 immediately because of rook g7, and the game is immediately drawn. No chance to make progress anymore. But of course you make check, rook e6 check, and after king d7, again rook e5 with rook g5 idea, covering g-file, and white wins, promotion cannot be stopped. And if after king f6 rook f1 is played, then just king g5, rook g1, and rook g4 original plan is completed, and white wins the game. The same maneuver will be applied for all cases except when the pawn is on the h-file. Now we are going to see how to win the game when the pawn is on h-file. Simply, in order to win this game, we need to put our rook on b-file, to force black rook off b-file, then to go out with our king and promote our a-pawn. So we start this position with rook c1. And after king e7, Now there are two possible maneuvers, rook c7 check and rook b7, or rook c8 check and rook b8. Rook c8 is not check, but rook c8 with rook b8 idea. What do you think? Which of these two moves and plans white should choose? If white decides to play rook c7 check, that will be wrong. Because after king d6 and rook b7, now black rook is forced to move off b file and he will probably play rook h2. But now there is a problem for white. If white tries to go out with his king and if he plays king b8, it's a terrible move because he will be immediately checkmated. Now white realizes that he made mistake and he plays rook b8, but he actually lost one move playing like this, and black king reached c file. Remember, once black king is on the c file, the game is drawn and there is no any way for white to win the game. There is very simple draw by just putting the rook on c file and stop white forcing black king to go off c file. Now white can just make some checks along h file, checks from the side, but that makes no problem because black king always has some squares. In situation like this, you just move your rook along c file and wait for white rook to move off the 7th rank, and there is no any chance to make progress. The position is drawn. So the conclusion is that after king e7, the best plan to win the game is rook c8 and rook b8 idea. And now black has two possible moves. He can go to d6 or to d7. Let's start with king d7. If king d7, rook b8 of course, rook a2, and now finally our king is able to go out from the corner. King b7, rook b2 check, and white king now applies this maneuver approaching closer to the rook. At some moment black rook will run out of any possible check. It is clear now that there are only few more checks, and at this moment black must resign the game, no more checks, and white rook from b8 controls a8 square, supports the promotion, and black can just resign the game. So this is how white wins if black plays king d7 in this position. King d6 is better move because it controls c5 square and white king is not able to use the same route when he goes out from the corner. After rook b8, rook a2, king b7 and rook b2 check, it's of course wrong now to play king a6 because after rook a2 check and king b6 there will be a rook b2 check and it's not possible to use this c5 square. So white needs to figure out where to go with his king. And correct move here is king c8. Now after rook c2 check, king d8 is forced, and after rook h2, the question is what to do now for white. Of course, direct promotion is terrible move because black has rook h8, checkmate, black wins the game. King e8 may look as a good move, but it's actually very wrong because now white will lose his pawn. Very simple way for black to win the game, to win the pawn and make draw in this game. So the question is, what is the winning move? The winning move is rook to b6 here. And now after king c5, again, it's important moment for white. What should white do here? Well, if he makes mistake and plays rook a6, which really looks like as a wonderful move supporting the pawn to promote easily, again the game will be drawn. Look how. Simply starting checking the king. If white king stays on the queen side, there is no any chance to avoid checks, so he must approach closer to the rook, but when he reaches f7 square, rook goes to a8. And now the next move, whatever white plays, will be king b5, and white rook is overloaded now, cannot anymore stay on a6 and guard approach to the 6th rank. When he moves king b6 and the pawn on a7 is lost. Or if he plays king c7, for example, this is also a really terrible move. After rook h7, black will be able to win this rook, and now if white promotes to a queen, then black wins the game, and if white promotes to a knight, then again black will play king c6 and how to stop now this checkmate. This is actually winning position because both king and the knight are in the corner, and we have learned that in a lesson in which we learned rook versus minor piece. So that's why the question is what to play for white and to win this game. Well, the winning move is rook c6, wonderful move. The point is that if king takes c6, then we promote with check. And now this is queen versus rook, and this is winning position. For example, if now king goes to b5, that is bad because immediately queen b8 wins the rook. And if king goes to c5, we have maneuver like this. And now very soon we will be able to win this rook. At some moment he will need to allow us to make the check along h2 ba diagonal. And that happens now. We can make actually this check queen c7 and to win the rook. But there are probably many other ways how you can win the rook in that position. So maybe he will not capture the rook and play king b5, but then just rook c8, and now it is over. There are only two more checks, and at this moment white is safe to promote and white wins the game. So this is the way how to win in this starting position when we have the pawn on the edge file. It's important to remember that it is possible to use this maneuver and win the game only if black king is far away. Far away means that there are 4 files between the king position and the edge file pawn. If the distance is smaller, and in that case it will not be possible to win the game because black king would be able to reach c file, and we have already learned that in that case the game is drawn. This is our next position. Let us imagine that black rook was on a2 square and that he played rook c2 as his first move. Then this would be exactly the same as Lucena position, and now you know how easily to win this game as white. But in the starting position when black rook was on a2, he may try to save the game by applying the technique checking from the side. And let's say that he tries to do that. After rook a2, plays rook a8. So that's the only chance now to try to save the game. But in this position it will not help because there is very small checking distance. Only 2 files between checking file and the pawn file. And remember, if we have this very small checking distance, only 2 files, it is not enough to make draw. White will easily win. Let's see how. Simply king goes out, king c7, rook a7 check, king c8, rook a8 check, and king b7. Now black must play somewhere like rook d8, and after king c7, promotion cannot be stopped in the next move because black must move his rook. White easily wins the game. But let us take a look at this position. Now we have bigger checking distance. We have 3 files between the checking file and the pawn file, and in this case we will see that black easily draws this game. There is another way how to learn this position. Let us assume that this pawn, which is now on e file, will divide chessboard on 2 parts. Left side of the board will consist of 4 files, and we call it longer side of the board. And right side of the board will consist of 3 files, and let's call it shorter side of the board. The rule always says that you should keep your rook on the longer side of the board and your king on the shorter side of the board. As this condition is now fulfilled, we know that the game will be drawn. But let's see how it goes when we play moves. So rook a8 check is of course the first move for black, and after rook a7, king a7, king d7, simply rook a7 check, and after king d6, rook a6 check. If king goes to c5, that's not good because after rook e6 promotion, actually the pawn cannot be protected anymore. Black easily wins that pawn and the game is drawn. And if king goes to d5, which is better move, we simply continue checking rook a5. King c6, now it is bad actually to play rook e5. Simply we have rook a6 check again. And if king d7, just rook a7, and we just repeat everything. It's easy draw because of checking on the side. And if king b7, then simply rook e6, and it's not possible to do anything. The game is clearly drawn. So checking distance, which consists of 3 files, or when rook is on the longer side of the board and king on the shorter side of the board, is drawn position. In this example, we have the same position as the previous, with just one small difference. Black's king position is on g8 and not on g7. And that will be exception to the rule which we have just learned. The point is now that, let's assume that it's black on the move in this position. He has bad position for his king. We are going to see how he loses actually this game, even if he has rook on the longer side, king on the shorter side, and enough long checking distance. Rook a8 check, king d7, rook a7 check, king d6, rook a6 check, and now not king d5 like in the previous position. White king is able simply to play king c5. The problem is that now this rook e6 maneuver doesn't work because of bad position of black's king, which is on g8 square. Now after rook g8 rook f8 check, wherever king moves, it's simple win for white thanks to the promotion. It means that since it's not possible to put rook on e-file, that also rook a5 check is now a bad move, because after king b6 nothing can be done. So that's why he plays now rook a8, the best move. And now there are two ways for white to win the game. One way is to play king c6, and if now rook a6, king b7, and after rook e6, of course, rook f8 and easy win. Or if after king c6 he plays king g7, then rook a1 check, rook a1 move, fantastic move. Now if black captures this rook, we have endgame queen versus rook, which white will easily win now. Or if he plays rook b8, still keeping the rook on the last rank, now checking distance decreased to only 2 files. It's not anymore 3 files. And now we know that this is easy win. Of course, if king f7, now rook f1 check, and easy win for white. That is one way how to win this game. Second way is that after rook a8, we play immediately rook a1. And if rook goes to b8, now rook d1, and because of this threat, rook to d8, it's not possible to do anything for black, and white immediately wins the game. So if instead of rook a8 as the first move, black plays king g7, saying that okay, now it's white on the move, but I have my king on the square where I want to be, it's again lost, and let me show you how. After rook g1 check, if king goes to f6, simply king f8, and promotion cannot be stopped. And when king goes to h6, now rook g4, and we simply apply ideas from Lucena position. And if let's say rook f2, simply king goes out, and we have nothing but basic Lucena position. And if king goes to h5 attacking the rook, then simply rook goes to e4, supporting his pawn. Now king will go to one of the sides, and easy promotion now, and white wins this game. That would be all about our first lesson in pawn in rook endgames. If you want to see some specific content in my video chess lessons, please place the comment below my video on YouTube. Take a look at the suggested videos, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel.